Hey there, hey, appreciate the folks who decided to actually watch the video before sending me a novel or downvoting it, so here we go! I've been accused by a comment or two of just being trollish for hits or something, because apparently you can't make fun of a thing you enjoy and a show you like can't have bad or silly episodes. Excellent shows are beyond criticism or humor, I don't know. But I want to make clear that I'm being honest in my opinion. The TNG pilot, while hilarious, was a terrible pilot. Tuvix is a mess with a seed of a good idea. Spock's brain is dumb. A night in sickbay is an abomination. Outside of die-hard fans that don't like any sort of criticism whatsoever, my opinions are not that out there concerning episodes that are considered great or episodes that are big old stink burgers. I do, however, have one somewhat controversial opinion, so I'm gonna throw it out into the universe now so you can close the video and just give me your essay. I hate The Inner Light. I know, man, I get it. This is considered like the best episode of Next Generation, or at least the best Picard episode. There are a ton of people who love it, but I am not one of these people. Before you get all up in my business about this, yes, I am aware my taste levels usually drift toward things that are silly or not very good. But I can also understand why slam dunk episodes are considered integral or well crafted, even if it's something I'm not that into. And yes, I do actually like things that are good or serious sometimes. Here are just a handful of capital I important Picard episodes that I enjoyed greatly. Number 1, Measure of a Man. This was our first glimpse of Diplomat Picard and a fine early example of how excellent he is as an orator. While the story is centered on Data, Picard is the driving force that makes us consider what life really means. Number 2, Family. This one is very important to this video actually. It ties into Best of Both Worlds and really digs deep into the fallout of Picard's time in the Borg Collective. He shows a true vulnerability we'd never seen in his character before, as well as explores his strained relationship with his brother. Number 3, Chain of Command Part 2. You seen this torture? You seen this? Picard gets seriously messed up, testing his willpower, his strength, and his very identity as a person. Much of the episode is carried by two people in a room together just exhibiting pure acting. He gets naked too. Number 4, Darmok. Once again, two characters prop up almost the entirety of this episode that highlights the importance of communication. Picard, known for his words, finds himself unable to speak to this person. Darmok is willing to die to create a connection between his people and the Federation. Number 5, Tapestry. This episode was like Quantum Leap Star Trek edition. Picard relives his past regrets, examines himself as a person, and gets a glimpse of the road not taken. It's a better version of some of the themes here. I could point to any one of these as a standout episode of television, but never in a million years would I recommend The Inner Light. I find the plot very unsavory, important implications glossed over, and quite frankly, the journey isn't interesting enough to justify anything positive they're trying to get across. But hey, you came here for goofs, so let's comb through this episode and hopefully you'll get a laugh or two as I complain a lot. We're thrown into the deep end pretty early on as the Enterprise encounters an unknown object just kinda floating around in space. Picard is wearing his special jacket that indicates something will happen to him. Lo and behold, it does!
Increase speed to... Captain.
Oh, finally.
What? I didn't even take my cool jacket with me? What was even the point of putting it on? As you can see, Picard has been transported to Planet Beige. A woman insists he's someone by the name of Cayman. His shirt is designed for Maximum, showing off of Patrick Stewart's guns. Picard, confused and a bit scared, tries to figure out just what in the hell is going... Okay, really now? Really, please? At a moment like this, I didn't expect there to be hammer pants. Is that why people consider this episode untouchable? And loafers? He's not old yet, allow him his dignity. For whatever reason, Picard is now on the planet Catan, and he is, for all intents and purposes, this Cayman guy with a wife named Aline. This is, unfortunately, where we will be spending the next 45 minutes of television. Visit the beautiful and exciting world of Catan. See shades of brown and pale green, people planting trees, women holding empty pitchers, off-center rugs, big pants at maximum inflation, dumb wife jokes.
Your wife. If you don't remember that, maybe it's safer not to go home.
Hell yeah, we got dirt! Bored of this village? No problem. Just venture outside and there's nothing else around for miles. And that's right, our soup's brown too.
It's delicious.
And don't forget the awkward silences! Okay, so here's where we get to the most iconic part of this episode, the lasting legacy of Inner Light, the one piece of info that is even remotely remembered in the rest of the series, and that is that Picard learns to play the flute. And look, actually, I'm behind this 110%. I can get behind some flute action. Take us away, Picard!
See what you mean?
I think everyone can agree that out of all the insane space instruments from dead cultures Picard could have mastered, the most exciting one was one of those recorders you learned to play hot cross buns on in middle school. Wow, what a strange culture that would never have been preserved without shoving themselves into one rando's mind. As you can imagine, this is all very confusing and dull for Picard, so what's really going on here? Back on the bridge, we see that Picard is actually experiencing all of this in his mind, and the crew is trying to get him back. The entire thing, from their perspective, takes place over the course of 20 minutes. Sometime shortly after that, Troi comes back from her lunch break and realizes she missed, a lot. With the leader of the Decepticons out of action, King Worfscream takes charge and suggests this wonderful solution.
We should destroy the probe. Phasers are armed and ready.
It might be 20 minutes for the crew on the Enterprise, but for Picard, this whole ordeal takes place over the course of decades. Yes, decades! So that's not horrifying or anything. What the hell is wrong with this episode? By the time we get back to Picard, he's already aged by 5 years, as indicated by the growth of his hair and sleeves. He's been living his life as Cayman, desperately clinging to the notion that he is in fact Jean-Luc Picard and the Enterprise is out there somewhere.
I think you're still trying to figure out where you are, where that ship of yours is, how to get back to that life.
And you can't expect me to forget a lifetime spent there.
Yes, I can.
Wow, what beautiful condescension. I totally get it now.
You come along?
No, thank you. You do very well on your own.
Wives, am I right? I may have been a little harsh on Catan before. Please, show us your world.
What business do we have today?
But we need help if we're to increase the water supply. We think there are ways to reclaim some of our water.
True, we are in a drought, but water rationing has produced a sizable savings.
I suggest that we build atmospheric condensers which could extract water from the air.
You'll see that this kind of participatory government works for everyone.
Come and have supper tonight, old friend. I'll make some vegetable stew.
Shh. And it is this drought/stew conversation, along with his handy flute and a heaping helping of gaslighting, that makes him finally give in to the madness. This is the turning point where Picard lets his dream of ever being a starship captain, his entire identity, even his name, get flushed down the proverbial toilet. Good God.
I'd like to ask your permission to build something. Nursery.
Just now he's deciding to become a dad? Now? He's already 100 million years old. I mean, look, okay, Patrick Stewart was only 52, but in the timeline that makes Cayman nearly 60, and that's an old dad. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but maybe this is why the people on this planet died out.
Picked up some residue on the probe shell. I think it came from the propulsion system. Looks like they used a solid propellant.
Sorry, but why did they turn him into Mr. Mixel-Pitalik? All respect to Michael Westmore, but old Picard looks like Dr. Queeze. Have you seen my Sunday hammer pants? I'm wearing my Tuesday pants and I look like a total idiot right now. Thus we continue the thrilling adventures of Picard's life on planet Catan through the years. The birth of his kids, the death of old friends, the playing of flutes, his good-for-nothing musician son played by Patrick Stewart's actual son. Boy, I sure hope the folks on this planet are actually real, or this might ring a little hollow. I tell you, Cayman, I love being made out of wax. Okay, fine, there's an actual plot happening with this whole drought thing. Basically, Picard is like, we gotta fix this, and the administrator is the mayor from Jaws, but for climate change. Spoiler alert, everybody is already fucking dead and have been for 1,000 years. For cinematic parallels, see the finale of Dinosaurs. As the administrator notes, they can't evacuate because their technology is so primitive, they're just barely starting to launch small missiles. So let me get this straight. These dudes were able to make a probe, shoot it into space, have it sit there for 1,000 years or so until some rando came along so they could make them live out an entire lifetime over the course of 20 minutes in their head, but they can't master spaceflight or even missiles. This is what we're going with. Really now, really. In what? They couldn't just make a time capsule or write a book like any sane people would? They had to invade someone's mind? These fucking morons? Why is this episode so beige?
Put your shoes away.
I promise.
Oh, why are your hands so young and your face so old? At this point, the probe gets bored and just tells Picard what's going on, but at least they didn't take their time or anything. Their people died and they sent out a space probe to keep their memory alive, yada yada yada, whatever. The Inner Light acts like this is the most important, Emmy-worthy thing in the world, and their plan is dumb beyond belief. They're gonna preserve their culture by zapping these memories into one and only one person's mind and hope that it's someone that actually cares, won't go insane, and then will, what, tell the Federation? Write a book? Play the flute and pass down that knowledge through every generation? Cool, I guess? What if a Packlet had been zapped, or a space whale? I mean, there's like a million types of life in space, and just coincidentally they landed on Picard. I'd love to see the universe where this happened to a Ferengi. Fuck, these people really were too dumb to live. And I hate to break this to them, but they were just a bunch of dumb hammer pants wearing farmers. I'm sorry, their culture is not that special or interesting.
The rest of us have been gone 1,000 years.
Oh, what the hell? This is totally messed up. And you couldn't have given me a cooler, made-up life? You suck!
Now we live in you. Tell them of us.
Gah! Who are you people? I fucking hate this episode. Forgive me for my hyperbole, but The Inner Light is possibly the most boring thing I've ever watched. Look, I just don't care. I don't like the clothes, I don't like the characters, I don't care about their water supply or the drought. We're just watching mundane town business as Picard slowly grows old and goes insane? And they're already fighting an uphill battle because I'm pretty pissed off at the premise to begin with. But it's about Picard's growth as a character. Yeah, okay, I get it. He learns that he loves children and has the family he never got as a starship captain. His life is more whole from the experience. Never mind the fact that they've done other, better episodes about the same idea. This is all very well and good, but it actually does not matter to me in the slightest that Picard had a positive experience in the end, because this is a bunch of bullshit. First of all, this isn't consensual. These people set up a probe in space to violate some random person's mind and make them experience an entire lifetime in their head as someone else. I don't care if Picard liked it in the end, that's called Stockholm Syndrome. He spent decades being gaslit into believing he was someone else, married to a woman he never met, having non-existent children, and losing non-existent friends. They might have existed at some point in history, but all of these people in his mind are not real. He was just stuck in the world's shittiest LARP session. How would you feel if you suddenly woke up and found out the last 30 years of your life never happened? You never met your wife, your children weren't yours, and only like 20 minutes has passed. You'd never be able to go back to your old life the same. And what did he get out of it? He could play the flute with his one-episode girlfriend one time? Are you kidding me? This should have serious long-term repercussions, and the only takeaway from this episode is this. His fake flute hands were hilarious though. I give them 1 point for that. And don't act like I'm the only person to see this issue. Producer Ronald D. Moore also admitted they really didn't think out how this should have affected Picard long term. I've always felt that the experience from the Inner Light would have been the most profound thing in Picard's life and changed him irrevocably. But that wasn't our intention when we created the episode. We were after a good hour of TV. The larger implications of how this could really screw somebody up didn't hit home with us until later. That's sometimes a danger in TV. You're so focused on getting the show made every week that sometimes you suffer from the can't see the forest from the trees syndrome. There's an episode of Deep Space Nine called Hard Time in which Chief O'Brien is given false memories of spending 20 years in prison. When he returns to the station, he is a broken man. Now, while that episode also does not have the long-term implications it absolutely should, it's a more honest take on the situation. Picard may not have been in prison, but you would not be the same person. Even just the passage of time would have shifted who he was. Look back at who you were 5 years ago. You were not the same. Now, who will you be decades from now? But let's forget that anyone, no matter who they are, would be completely changed by living an entire other lifetime in their head. Picard is someone who is assimilated by the Borg and suffers PTSD because of the experience. It nearly destroyed him. Outside of Troy, who couldn't go a season without having her mind hijacked, Picard would be the one person on the ship most sensitive to a situation where his mind is violated and his identity is stolen. Why would he look at this same experience and take it so drastically different? The fact it's not even paid lip service is strange and off-putting to me. Just writing that the character came away more fulfilled does not mean that I bought it, and I didn't. The Inner Light as a concept just falls apart for me. It's wrapped up way too nicely, and those freaks on Catan got off way too light. But even if I was into the premise, I was just bored by the whole thing. So all around, not my favorite. But it's okay if you dig it. We're allowed to have differing opinions. Obviously, a lot of people hold this episode in high regard, but I just can't. I feel as if I too have aged several decades just watching this episode again. So if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna go take a nap.